Hello, my name's Chris Bealey. I work in Nottinghamshire Healthcare NHS Trust. I'm a senior data scientist. Uh, what I do all day is my first love is patient experience. I'm responsible for all the patient experience reporting in my organisation, and I've also done a funded project with NHS England, um, producing a text mining algorithm for patient experience data. If you work in a provider NHS Trust and you have a lot of text data from friends and family tests that you would like to process and categorize, then do drop me a line. I'll be happy to share it with you. It's all free and open source. Other than patient experience, I do some other stuff. I do a bit of forecasting. My other first love is probably statistics. I dabble in machine learning as well. My team do we support a lot of work around sort of public health and epidemiological type work, and we look at a lot of work to do with routine clinical outcomes. If you've heard of me, the people who've heard of me have probably heard of me because of my interest in Shiny, which is an R package for those who haven't heard of Shiny, which is concerned with producing interactive dashboards from R code. I sort of fell into this really. I never meant to do this. I don't think this job even existed, I suppose, when I went to university. So I've always wanted to work in sort of the NHS or in an allied kind of context. So my dad was a dentist, my mum was a social worker, my brother's a nurse in my trust actually, funnily enough. And that's just always wanted to do something like this. So I wanted to be a brain surgeon first, then I wanted to be a genetic engineer, which I think, to be honest, is just the sort of me equivalent of wanting to be a fireman. I don't think I really knew what either of those jobs was really. But then when I was 14, I became very interested in psychology. I read some fairly silly books about psychology and determined at that point that I would be a clinical psychologist. So I went to university, did a degree in psychology, and then I started to work in the trust that I'm in now. Then I did a PhD in psychology as well within the same trust that I'm in now. And completely failed in my mission to be a clinical psychologist. One of the organisations that I applied to for the training said that I would not make a very good clinical psychologist. I have no idea if that's true or not, but I'm very happy that I ended up here. So we'll leave that one to the philosophers, if you like. The After my PhD, I started doing a lot of evaluation work, and I got involved in doing some sort of statistical type stuff. I fell in love with the R language at that time. That was around, I think, 2010. Sort of doing regression models in R, and I also started to automate what was then at the time our new patient survey in R. Originally, that was done in with Excel macros. I programmed the whole thing in Excel macros, and it took absolutely weeks to put the report together, literally weeks. So eventually, I wrote an R program to automate all that. So that's sort of how I ended up here, really. That's the short version. We're very lucky, I think, in my team. We have a lot of interesting stuff to do. So people come to us with interesting problems to do with measurement, to do with sort of statistics and analysis, and making sort of informed judgments about the world. We do funded work as well. I've done funded work with NHS England. I've done funded work as well with the Health Foundation. We're also quite involved with the NHSR community, which is one of my great loves in life. So we do a lot of sort of, informal and formal collaboration, funded and unfunded, with various sort of partners all over the country. And we do a lot of work within our own trust to do with basically looking at routine clinical outcomes with a kind of public health focus. I'm very lucky in my job, very, very lucky. I often say that to be honest with you, don't tell my trust that I said this, but quite honestly, I would do most of my job I would do for free because it's so much fun if I could afford to. I wouldn't do the annoying bits for free, but I would do quite a lot of it for free. So sort of the reason why I come to work in the morning is, I think, probably twofold. I think the main reason is just that I'm so aware that data is such a big part of the way that kind of companies and corporations and the world functions these days. And I feel like there are some organisations, your Netflixes and your Googles, um, that have really sort of harnessed the power of their data. And we just don't have that kind of money in the NHS, and I feel like we're not we're not getting the full value that we could from it. Um, so that's the main thing that I really want to do. I really want to help the NHS to to do better with its data, and a big part of the way that I think about this, and I think the way that my team thinks about this, is that it's really about building up capacity. I read a lot of stuff about that, and I think that's how we try and work as well. So a decent chunk of my job is not just about doing stuff for people, but it's about firstly about doing stuff and sharing the code and the output and helping people to understand what I've done so they can copy it. Um, but also just giving people advice and pointers and delivering training and all that kind of stuff, just to help people to become more self-sufficient in what they do. Um, so that's a big part of why I do it. And I think the other big thing that I'm really passionate about in the NHS. That's something I love the NHS dearly, but I think this is the other thing that they haven't quite got right. Is I think there's much too much of working in silos. I think there's much too much of paying companies, private consultants, and paying companies for proprietary code for analytic functions. Um, I want to make the NHS much more self-sufficient. I think the NHS is brilliant in terms of clinical care. I think it's been very, very innovative, and I don't see any reason at all why we can't have that same level of quality and innovation in our analytics field. And I think, frankly, we don't at the moment. Um, so I want to help the NHS to understand the way that it can share, that can build things collaboratively. This is partly to do with open source code, which is a big passion of mine. If you ever get talking to me, I probably will mention that within the first couple of sentences. But it's not just open source; it's a whole way of thinking and a whole way of life, and this whole idea that we should be building things together. We should be identifying sort of common cause, and we should be forming communities around it and building stuff for ourselves that we can run free forever. And for example, the text mining project that I mentioned, that's the real aim of that. Is I'm trying to build a thing, and I don't want to have it forever. I don't want to be the guy in charge of it forever. I want to build something, build a really useful tool, and then just give it away, and then just have the NHS just use it, and maybe and improve it, and build on it. So that's really, those are the two reasons why I go to work. I would say the first one is to really make sure that we do analytics at a really high standard, and the second one is to really push this idea that we can do better, and we can share, and we can collaborate, and we can do all the stuff. And I read so much great stuff about this now. There's loads of stuff coming out of NHSX, and obviously the advent of the ICS has generated a lot of stuff like this. And I've heard a lot of fine words on this subject, but I really want to be part of that. What I'd ultimately like to do, well, I've always said that I would like to run the biggest and best data science team in any provider trust in the country, and that remains my ambition. We're not as big as I want us to be. We were a little bigger a little while ago. Actually, we don't have quite so much money as we did before, but I am working on that. But I think we can be bigger than we are. I think we can be better than we are, and that would make me really happy to do that. And I think the other thing that I'd really like to do is to be part of the conversations that I've been talking about nationally, regionally, and locally, in terms of changing the way the NHS works, in terms of promoting, rigor in analysis and in the way that we work, promoting, rigor in terms of making sure the right people are doing the right jobs in the right way, and to, identify areas of collaboration, to freely share what we're doing. And quite honestly, I feel like the NHS could be just more open, not even just about its code, but also just about what's going on. There's a lot of resistance with the NHS to sharing any of the kind of sort of performance, and I don't expect that all to be shared publicly. I think some of it probably wouldn't, but the NHS is a truly a great organisation, and there's so much good stuff happening within it. I really think we can start being more honest with the public and talking about what we're doing. And I think um, that would be part of a really nice conversation about sharing basically all the work that's going on. So I certainly would like to be part of that if I could.